Dear students, today we are going to see implementing RPC mechanism. In this mechanism, the implementation of an RPC mechanism is based on the concept of stubs, which provide a perfectly normal, local procedure call. Abstraction by concealing from programs the interface to the underlying RPC system. We saw that an RPC involves a client process and a server process. Therefore, to conceal the interface of the underlying RPC system from both the client and server processors, a separate step procedure is associated with each of the two processors. Moreover, to hide the extents and functional details of the underlying network, an RPC communication package, that is known as RPC runtime, is used on both the client and server sides. Thus, the implementation of an RPC mechanism usually involves the following 5 elements program. One is client, second client stub, third RPC runtime, fourth server stub, fifth server. The client stub and one instance of RPC runtime execute on the client machine, and the server side, the server stub and one instance of RPC runtime execute on the server machine. As far as the client is concerned, remote services are accessed by the user by making ordinary LPC, local procedure call. Move to next slide. Stub. The stub is generated on a two-way. One is manual, another one is automatically. Manual. In this implementer provided a set of translation function from which a user can construct his or her own stub. This method is simple to implement and can handle very complex parameters. Next, automatically, the more commonly used method, stub generation. It uses interface definition language, IDL, interface definition language, that is used to define the interface between a client and a server. An interface definition is mainly a list of procedures named supported by the interface. This type of their arguments and results, this is sufficient information for the client and server to independently, okay, the client and server are to be independently perform while performing compile time, type checking, and to generate appropriate calling sequence. The interface definition, checking the interface is also contain other information that helps RPC reduce data storage and the amount of data transferred over the network. A server program that implements procedure in an interface is said to be report. The interface, the client program that calls procedure from an interface, set to import the interface. When writing an interface application, distributed application first writes an interface definition using the ideal interface and the client program that imports the interface and the server program that exports the interface. Okay, interface definition is proposed using ideal compiler to generate components that can be combined with client and server program. In a particular, from an interface definition, an ideal compiler generate a client stub procedure and the server stub procedure for each procedure in the interface. The appropriate morphing and unmorphing operation in each step procedure, and a header file that supports the data type in the interface definition. The header file is included in the source files of both client and server program. The client step procedures are compiled and linked with the client program, and the server step procedure are compiled and linked with the server program. An ideal compiler can be designed to process interface definition for use with different languages, enabling client and servers written in different languages to communicate by using RPC. Stub can provide stubs can provide a normal or local procedure called abstraction by controlling the underlying RPC mechanism. A separate stub procedure is associated with both the client and server process is to hide the underlying communication network. RPC communication package known as RPC runtime is used on both the slide. See in this diagram client machine and server machine. In client machine, the client is user process that initiate a remote procedure call. To make a remote procedure call, the client makes a perfectly normal call that invokes a corresponding procedure in the client stub. Client stub is responsible for carrying out the following two tasks. On a call request from the client is call request from the client. It packs a specification of the target procedure and the arguments into the message and then ask the local RPC runtime. It sent to the server stub is RPC runtime, send it to the server stub. In this procedure execution, it impacts the result and passes it to the client. It passes through the client. RPC runtime means RPC runtime. It handles the transmission of messages across the network between client and server, between the client and server machines. It is responsible for retransmission, acknowledgement, packet routing and encryption. The RPC runtime on the client machine receives the call request. Okay. The client machine receives the call request message from the client stub and send it to the server machine. It also receives the message containing the result of procedure execution from the server machine and passes it to the client stub. On the other hand, the server machine receives the messages containing the result of procedure execution from the server stub, send it to the client. It also receives the call request message from the client machine and passes it to the server stub. And passes to the server machines. It's the call request. Okay, the call request message from the local or PC runtime the server stub unpack. It makes a perfectly normal call to invoke. See, invoke the appropriate procedure in the server, and the result of the procedure execution from the server stub back the result in the machine and then ask the local RPC runtime to send it to the client stub. Next, server. The server, the receiving a call request from the server stub. The server executes the appropriate procedure and returns the result of procedure execution to the server stub. Client stubs is responsible for following two tasks. On recipient of call request from the client, it passes a specification of the target procedure and the arguments into the message and asks the local RPC runtime to send it to the server stub. On recipient of the procedure execution, it unpacks the result and passes it to the client. RPC runtime, it handles transmission of messages across the network between client and server machine. It is responsible for retransmission, acknowledgement, routing and encryption. Server stub, it's responsible for two tasks. On recipient of a call request message from the local RPC runtime, it unpacks it and makes a perfectly normal call. It invokes the appropriate procedure in the server. From the server, it unpacks the result of a message and then asks the local RPC runtime. It sends it to the client stub. RPC messages, procedure calls, that is RPC involves a client process and a server process that are possibly located on different computers and interact between client and server. Client asks the server to execute a remote procedure and the server returns the result of execution of the concerned procedure to the client. Two types of messages involved in the implementation of RPC system. One is call messages, another one is reply messages. First, call messages that are sent by the client to the server for requesting execution of particular remote procedure. Second, reply messages that are sent by the server to the client for returning the result of remote procedure execution. The protocol of the concerned RPC system defines The format of these two types of messages normally independent of transport protocol. RPC does not care. Now the message is passed from the one process to another. RPC protocol deals only with the specification and interpretation of these two types of messages is call messages and reply messages. Call messages it is used to request execution of a particular remote procedure, and reply messages is a call from a client. It could faced with one of the following condition, and the particular condition that no problem was detected by the server for any of the previously listed. It is a distributed application. Developer ensures that other RPC call and reply message do not exceed the maximum length specified by any of the transport of the concerned group. Okay, next topic we will discuss in next section. Thank you.